In the dead of night, as the cold wind swept through the empty streets, a man sat alone on the edge of a bridge. His hands trembled as he gripped a crumpled piece of paper. It was a letter from the company he had given 15 years of his life to, a letter telling him that his job was gone. He had worked tirelessly, sacrificing weekends, birthdays, and precious moments with his family to climb the ladder. And now, without warning, it was over. His mind raced with thoughts.
How will I tell my wife? What about my children? How will we survive?
Tears welled up in his eyes as he stared down at the dark river below. The weight of failure crushed him. He whispered to himself, "I have nothing left." As he sat there, lost in despair, an old man appeared from the shadows. His clothes were worn, and his face was lined with years of hardship, but his eyes sparkled with kindness.
"Why do you sit here like this?" the old man asked gently.
The man on the bridge looked up, startled. "What do you care?" he replied bitterly. "I've lost everything. My life is ruined." The old man nodded, as if he understood.
"Ruined, you say? Perhaps. But sometimes what we think is the end is just the beginning."
The man scoffed.
"Spare me your wisdom. You don't know what it's like to lose everything."
The old man sat down beside him and said,
"Maybe I do. Let me tell you a story."
"There was once a carpenter," the old man began, "who built homes for others but lived in a broken tiny shack himself. He worked from dawn till dusk, crafting beautiful houses for wealthy clients. But no matter how hard he worked, he could never save enough to fix his own home. One day, while working on a grand mansion, he slipped and injured his hand badly. He couldn't work for weeks. The bills piled up, and he fell into debt. He thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to him. But, unable to work, he began to notice something he hadn't before." "What?" the man on the bridge asked, despite himself. "The cracks in his own walls," the old man said. He realized that while he had been building homes for others, his own house had become dangerous. So, with no work to do, he started fixing it. At first, he used scraps and leftover wood. But soon, neighbors who admired his skill came to help. One brought tiles, another brought paint. By the time his hand healed, his home was no longer a broken shack, it was the most beautiful house in the village. The man on the bridge frowned. "So what? Are you saying I should just fix my life with scraps?" The old man chuckled. "No, I'm saying that sometimes, when life forces us to stop, it's giving us a chance to build something better." The man on the bridge didn't know what to say. The old man stood up and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small wooden bird. "Take this," he said. "What is it?" the man asked. "It's something I carved when I thought my life was over. It reminded me to keep going. Maybe it will do the same for you." The man hesitated, but then he took the bird. It was rough and simple, yet it felt warm in his hand. When he looked up to thank the old man, he was gone. The next morning, the man sat at his kitchen table with his family. His wife's eyes were red from crying, and his children sat quietly, unsure of what to say. He placed the wooden bird on the table and told them about the old man on the bridge. "I don't know what happens next," he said, "but I'm not giving up. Maybe losing my job is a chance to build something better." His wife squeezed his hand. Over the weeks that followed, the man began looking for work. He found a temporary job at a small hardware store. It wasn't much, but it kept food on the table. One day, a customer came in, frustrated because she couldn't find anyone to repair her old wooden furniture. The man offered to help. His hands, once used to managing teams and writing reports, now worked on carving, sanding, and restoring. To his surprise, he loved it. Soon, word spread about his skill, and more customers came. Months turned into years. The man never returned to the corporate world. Instead, he opened a small workshop where he created handmade furniture and restored family heirlooms. His pieces became known for their beauty and craftsmanship, and people traveled from far away to buy them. One day, as he looked around his thriving workshop, he thought of the night on the bridge. The pain of losing his job had been real and deep, but it had led him here to a life he never could have imagined. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the wooden bird. Its edges were worn from years of being held, but it still felt warm in his hand. He smiled and placed it on a shelf, a reminder that sometimes what feels like the end is really the beginning. Life has a way of testing us, but as this story shows, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something beautiful. When challenges knock you down, remember, they might be redirecting you to something even greater. So, here's the lesson for today. Don't give up when life gets hard. Take a deep breath, trust the process, and look for the hidden opportunities in your struggles. You have the strength to turn your setbacks into comebacks. If this story inspired you, take action today. Reflect on a challenge you're facing and think about how it could lead to something better. And if you found value in this video, don't keep it to yourself, share it with someone who needs encouragement. Before you go, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring story. Together, we'll keep growing and finding strength in every moment life throws at us. See you in the next video.